Well, mentally ill people do wind up moving to the woods.
It's happened.
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. I remember there's this one guy who was famous in Maine he was a legend that he would break into people's houses and steal their stuff. And then they found out that he was a real person. And he had dropped out of society in like the 1970s and just decided to completely live by himself. Like, he didn't talk to people for decades.
Oh, wow.
And he was by himself alone in a tent in the woods. And he would just steal stuff from people's houses when they weren't around.
Wow.
Yeah, and like live off of whatever he found or ate. And I don't know, like, what his like woodscraft was like. Is this it? Stranger in the Woods. Yeah, this
sounds
is the story.
like it.
For 27 years,
that's
Christopher
wild.
Knight lived alone in a clandestine wooded camp in tiny Rome. I don't know what that is. Undiscovered and unaided, breaking into camps to steal what he needed to survive. When he finally captured and arrested in April 2013, the story of the North Pond Hermit made headlines worldwide. But Knight spoke only to one journalist, Michael Finkel. In an exclusive excerpt from his new book, Finkel explains the origins of the whispered myth that haunted central Maine for decades, the legend of the stranger in the woods.
It's pretty cool.
It is kind of cool.
It's cool. He did his own.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I'm sure he had all kinds of probably issues, right? But,
oh, yeah, for sure.
But he lived his own, he made his own path. He lived off of stuff. It reminds me, have you ever heard of the Japanese survivor in Guam? Have you heard about that story?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Tell that story.
So from my understanding, during World War II, there was a crash in Guam and from a dogfight. And this Japanese pilot or guy who was in the plane went and hid in a cave up on a mountain in Guam. And he spent until 2002 living in this cave, thinking that World War II was continuing, and he thought he had a better life living in a cave and living off of the jungle because Guam is like a hub for, I think, United or Delta, one of the major airlines. So all these planes are coming in and out every day, and he thinks it's World War II continuing.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's military bases and everything else in Guam. So
was it really 2002?
Jamie would have to look, but it was very recent.
The 80s or something. I didn't know it was like that's he must have been old as fuck.
Yeah, he was in his 70s or so. I don't. I'm probably getting the date wrong.
We'll
but
find it. But
yeah,
still, that's so crazy.
But can you imagine?
How would you know? How would you know? And what if you fucked up and went in too early?
Right.
And then it is still World War II and they shoot you.
Exactly.
You just hang out for another year.
Yep. Just I'll spend a couple more days in the cave.
Oh my God. So what is
There's
it?
two stories actually. We'll go with this one first. Is the one you were talking about.
So this one
97.
97.
Oh, died in 97.
Died in 97. Yeah. So years of service 41 to 45, and then it says 1972.
But do you see that? 28 years of hiding in the jungles of Guam.
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about there with 45. So they found him in 72.
I just saw a story this morning, which it's not new. It apparently was in 2013. There's a man. A man took his two sons after Vietnam came, and they were hid in the woods for 40 years.
Wow. Forced to live off rats and make loincloths out of tree bark. Man who spent 41 years living in the jungle after fleeing Vietnam War makes emotional return to his former home. 41 years. Look at the picture of him.
Social skills, obviously, and he didn't know what a woman was. He said
really?
His father didn't tell him what a woman was. They saw 5 people their whole life and hid from him in the woods when they saw him. This is according to what I read earlier today.
God.
Huh. Do you think...
Oh, my God.
Would you... If you're put into his position, is it worth living like
85?
That? His father was.
Oh.
Father 85.
I just looked at that really quick. I'm like, God damn, he looks great. Maybe that's how we're supposed to live.
Yeah, rat head was his favorite.
Rat head. Dude, well, who doesn't like a good rat head? Why is his haircut so good?
That's a good question.
This is bullshit.
I think this is after they found him and they took him back to take pictures and show. He was probably showing him what he was doing the whole
time.
They
redressed him. This is horseshit.
Look right here.
Yeah, they redressed him.
After
they redressed him in rags.
Yeah,
that's what he looked like
for the photos.
That's what he looked like when they found
better.
him? Yeah, that looks like a guy living in the woods. Wow. Rat head. He was eating rat heads. What does it say? His son was killed? What does it say?
I'm not sure.
One day his wife and two of his sons were killed by a mine explosion, putting him in a state of shock. He took his 2-year-old son and fled into the jungle, thereafter never having any contact with anyone else. The pair survived by foraging fruit and cassava from the forest and planting corn. They wore loincloths made of tree bark and lived in a timber hut raised 5 meters above the ground.